We are recording. Awesome. All right, you guys, welcome to our weekly webinar. I can't believe we're already in the month of September. That seems crazy to me. Happy birthday to Katie. It's officially her birthday today, so make sure you say happy birthday. Okay, so we are going to dive straight in. I do have a PowerPoint just because it helps me sort of, I guess, cohesively place my thoughts into something and really helps me filter it out when I'm thinking. So this actually was a really great activity for me today to put together a PowerPoint on this topic because it's something that I am sort of coming back to, especially here late in the year. Like my recruiting numbers this year have not been as strong as they have been in years past. So today, when I was filling out completing this PowerPoint for you guys, I realized really just need to kind of assess where I am and maybe where I'm dropping the ball too. So it was a really great activity for me to just sit there and think like, okay, when I was recruiting 4 to 5 coaches per month, what was I doing and what am I not doing now? And so it really has helped me even just put together the presentation just so that I can have better clarity for myself as well. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll go from there. I've got to clean up my computer. You guys do not want to see my desktop. Okay. So I wanted to talk specifically about recruiting working coaches because those of you who are Emeralds and above who are in our Rank Attack group currently, you guys have been completing the weekly tracker, and it's been really helpful for me to see sort of where you're struggling and what you're wanting information on. And the one thing that I've seen recurrent since we started the tracker, which was the beginning of the summer, is really just talking about recruiting, right? You want to know all the things. Like I've seen things recently about how do I get people to work the business? How do I recruit people who want to work the business? How do I help people get started? How do I, everything, right? So I just figured like, I'm going to do like, those of you guys who are churchgoers, you know that a lot of times ministers or pastors will do like sermon series. So I'm going to consider this like my sort of sermon series for the month of September. This is sort of what I want to talk about for the month of September. I want to make sure that we all can kind of wrap our heads around the concept of recruiting. The reason is because I feel like if I were to just do a one-stop shop webinar on it and that was it, then it's like I'm not enforcing the importance of it. It kind of slips our mind. Next week we go right back to thinking about recruiting for our challenge groups and, you know, talking about our challenge groups. And so it's just not top of mind. So I thought, let's just bring this to the top of the conversation, at least here for the next 3 weeks. That's the plan. I talked today to Kelsey Shackley. She's going to speak to our team as well. I'm trying to work out the details for when that will be. But she's a rock star recruiter as well. So I want to make sure that it's not just me sharing, that we have some other people talking too. So let's, real quick, I just want to address, just so that everybody who sees this recording, everybody is on the same page. We do have a new challenge group starting this month. We're calling it the Sneaky Moms Challenge Group. It's all about helping mom get fit and helping her sort of make healthier transitions and healthier changes, I guess, for her family and her kids. The people who participate in that challenge group have the option of doing, of course, BOD with Shakeology for themselves, or they could do BOD with Shakeology or Daily Sunshine for their kid. So that's what we have going on right now. I know that's in the weekly announcements, but I just wanted to make sure everybody knows that. And then so that group, as well as all of our existing groups, will have a fresh kickoff prep week starting on the 10th with a new date of 9/17. Okay, so just wanted to make sure I touched on that. Okay, so primary takeaways for tonight. So feel free to take notes. Feel free to pop in with questions if you want to. If you do pop in with a question, I prefer that you just unmute yourself, just because I can't see the chat while I'm doing the PowerPoint. So the three things. Yes.
Sorry, really quick. For the Sneaky Moms group, are we actually focusing on any specific exercise program also, like workout program, or just nutrition?
We are not. No.
Okay.
Yeah, I think every day there will be like a daily tip from our coaches about how they sneak healthy into their kids or family meals. So that's something that whoever is leading the post for the day will come up with their tip for the day, and that's what they'll share. But as far as workout program goes, no. It's kind of just whatever works best for them and their schedule. Yeah, so that's the plan. Cool. Okay, so primary takeaways. First and foremost, probably the most important point of the evening will be the fact that working coaches typically aren't discovered. They are created. And by created, I mean created by you. Number 2, why challenge groups should breed coaches. And number 3, what you might be unaware of that's holding you back from building your team. I feel like this has been something, those of you guys who did those coffee chats this summer, we talked about this a lot, right? Having the right mindset when it comes to recruiting, having the right mindset about becoming a leader. If you knew how many times in the last several years I've heard from people, heard from coaches like, well, I'm not a leader. Like, I don't necessarily want to lead people. Like, I'm okay with like paying it forward and recruiting people to my challenge group. I'm kind of cool with the commission side of things, but I don't really like starting a team or building a team is scary, right? And so let's just address that from the very beginning, right? So let's talk about the mindset first, because it's very similar to what we talked about recently when I did the webinar a few weeks ago about kind of not necessarily overcoming objections, but having those awesome conversations with people. Sometimes our own misconceptions and our own things that hold us back, like if we were initially held back by the cost of Shakeology, we can sometimes sort of influence our potential challenger by having that mindset ourselves, right? And so it's the same thing when it comes to building a team. You kind of have to have the mentality that you can rock this, that you can be an awesome leader, that you can build a tribe, that you can absolutely do this thing, right? And so it starts with that. And as you guys know, it's just like anything we talk about when it comes to confidence. It's a decision. You just draw a line in the sand and say, I'm making the decision that I'm fully capable of this. I'm fully capable of leading a team, and I'm just going to take the next step and follow that goal. So the first thing that I want you to do, and I realize I'm going to have 2 activities for us to do tonight, the purpose of which for you to really just sort of put pen to paper and kind of work through this mindset if you're someone who has this mindset struggle. So if you've got a sheet of paper or your phone, what I'd really like for you to do is I'd like for you to just write down the top 5 things that you love the most about this business. So it can be anything at all, right? Like anything at all. It can be the personal growth component. It can be the friendships you've made. It can be whatever. I want you to write those things down. Probably most likely it's going to take you less than 30 seconds, I'm hoping, to write down your top 5 favorite things about what this business has done for you. Now, I just had the great fortune of hearing, and I can't remember her name, honestly. I listened to this girl who was interviewed today, and I think it was the Champions page or somewhere, I'm not sure. And I listened to that today while Ellery was napping. And so she said today that she truly sees this business as a gift. It has been a gift to her, right? Like she feels like it's been a true gift because she has established awesome friendships. She's grown herself as a person. Like she went through all these different things that she has seen as a result of this business. But for some reason, right, for the longest time, she talked about how she still had this fear in inviting people to the opportunity. And I think that that's so true of us, right? Like I think everybody on this call can admit that they love this business, right? Like you love, like when you go to Summit, like most people would not enjoy the craziness of Summit. Most people would not set their alarm at 4:30 in the morning to work out with Shaun T. Most people wouldn't be meal prepping on a Sunday afternoon like we do, right? Like there's something about this thing that we like, right? We love it. It's been a true gift to us. But then we're like, oh, I don't know if I should ask Becky Sue or Betty Sue to join my team because I don't know what she's going to say. I don't know what she's going to, there's something that's missing there. So what I want you to do is I want you to take a look at that short list that you just wrote down. And I want you to now think about any negatives that this business has brought you. Have there been any negatives that it has brought you? And I want you to make a list of that as well. My hope is there aren't very many, if any. Okay? The purpose of having you do that is because if you do have a fear of inviting to the business opportunity, I want you from now on, every time that you're thinking, oh, this person would make a great coach, but I'm nervous to ask them, I want you to take a look at this list. I want you to put this up on your computer, on your desk, wherever it is, on your whiteboard, and I want you to see it on a daily basis. I want you, every time you go to invite somebody, I want you to remind yourself that this business has been a gift to you. So why wouldn't you share that, right? If you're not sharing it, it's most likely simply out of fear. That's activity number 1. Okay. Also, any self-limiting, like I said before, any self-limiting beliefs that you might have in the business could be holding you back from blowing this thing up. So what I hear often is, I don't have the time, I don't have the energy, I don't have the knowledge, or I don't have the skill set to lead a team, right? Or I can't seem to find people who want to work the business, right? I can't seem to find people who want to make this a business. And then of course, just, well, so far all my coaches just want the discount. If you have said any of those things, or if you find yourself saying any of those things currently, my hope is that by the end of this, you can really just be like, no, that's the wrong mindset. This is what I need to be doing in order to cultivate coaches, to create coaches. So again, like I said, working coaches aren't found, they're made. Okay. So in my almost 9 years of coaching, it has been so rare that I've ever found someone who just wants to come in and work this business as a business. And they've never been a challenger. They've never been, a Shakeology consumer, and they just want to come in for the business opportunity. It's been very rare that I have anybody like that. And quite honestly, I've never had anybody come in with just the income goal succeed long-term. Okay. So most likely 95% of the time or more, this is why Beachbody says the same thing. The people that you're going to find that will become rock star leaders for your team are people who start off just wanting to get healthy and fit in your challenge group. That's it, right? Like they're going to be your challengers. The best coaches were challengers first. So I heard this today from the girl who did the interview. She said, you want people to join you. You don't want them to be you. So this is something that I needed to hear today, because honestly, the number one objection that I get when I invite someone to the coaching opportunity is usually, well, I don't have a lot of nutrition knowledge, or I'm not a personal trainer, or I'm not super knowledgeable about meal planning, right? They're calling out things that they've seen in me, and they think that they need to have those qualities in order to be one of my coaches. And the truth is, I don't want them to be me. I want them to just be themselves and join me. So this girl today made a really cool point of talking about how people aren't coming into this business to work for you. They're coming into the business to work with you. Okay. So in case that speaks to you and you needed to hear that like I did today, I thought that was really great terminology. So let's kind of go through this train of thought. Hopefully you can tell by the slides that this is kind of how I was thinking through this today myself. So if 95% of people who are going to rock this business as a business come in because they want to get healthy and fit in your challenge group, what does that mean? Right? I asked myself today, like, what does that mean? And what do we need to be doing? And the answer to that is they most likely don't have the belief up front that they can do what we do as coaches, right? They just want to start with their health and fitness journey. They're kind of like a one step. They got their eye on the first step, right? They're not looking 10 steps ahead. So how can we as coaches be thinking about their first step, helping them succeed with that, and then bringing them on, bringing them through the continuation of steps? So here's what I figured out. Our job then is to, number one, build up their belief and dispel the myths within the challenge group. So in other words, we're building up the belief in them, and we're also dispelling the myths within the challenge group. So I think we do a great job of this as a team. I think our team-led groups do a great job of showing people that the responsibility of what we do as coaches is a shared effort, right? Like our team-led groups are a great way to indicate to people that this isn't something that I'm doing. Like my challengers that come in, I really think that they probably think when they come into the challenge group that I'm going to be like hand-holding them or all up in their grill for 30 days. And they come into the group, and I think they're genuinely surprised that there's a team of 20 coaches that are leading this group, right? And so to them, I'm sort of dispelling the myth that I do it all. So if you're somebody who maybe you're running your own challenge groups and you've got your own challengers, and then you're getting the objection, well, I just don't have time. Maybe it's because they're seeing you lead everything and they think they have to do that too, right? So that's just a thought. Maybe, delegating some responsibilities to your coaches or that sort of thing would help them sort of dispel that myth. So number two, cultivating that community, that overall tribe vibe that we have in our challenge groups. Number three, creating fanaticism over our programs and products, making sure that people love their Shakeology, right? Like how many times do we drop the ball if somebody stops checking into our challenge group and then we check in with them a week or two later and they tell us, oh, the Shakeology was nasty. I poured it down the drain, right? It's up to us to really facilitate that. Like, okay, let's try just different recipes. Have you considered Energize? Have you considered Recover? Like, let's find something that works for you, and I'm going to help make you a fan of our products. Next is showing them that coaches are regular people just like them. Encouraging them to lead the groups by offering tips that they have found helpful. So this is something that I think as a team we can do better at. I'm mentioning this because I think maybe individually, those of you who are leading your own individual groups probably could do this as well. This is something I used to do all the time. In fact, it's probably why Tara and Shauna and Abby and that whole crew that came in at one time, that's probably why they all decided to become coaches, honestly, because first and foremost, over the course of the challenge groups, we built a sense of community. We created that fanaticism about the products and the programs. We helped them get results. And then we encouraged them to start leading, right? Like I can remember specifically, I think I went on vacation, or it might've been a Beachbody summit or something. And I specifically remember asking Abby to lead the group while I was gone. And I did the same thing with Shauna. I think I did the same thing with Tara. Like, I'm going to be gone for a week. If there's any tips that you've learned over the course of being in this challenge group, would you be willing to lead the posts in the challenge group while I'm away, right? Just a simple thing like that. It put them into the driver's seat. It put them into the coach responsibility of leading a group. And then next thing you know, it makes it easier for me to seed plant and say, I still really think that you'd make a great coach. Look, you're already doing the things that we do. Like, is this something that you might want to consider? So putting people sort of in the position of seeing what it would be like to be a coach is also a great idea, and one that I need to get back to myself. And then of course, last but not least, eventually encouraging them to invite friends and family to the same group. So Abby, I think you mentioned hearing this at the leadership training. I think that's where I remember hearing this. But I've heard this across the board from corporate lately, which is just to simplify overall how we're doing things, right? And the truth is that when somebody is in a challenge group and they're seeing results and they love that challenge group, it just makes sense for them to pay it forward. So why are we overloading them with, everything that we can overload them with? Coach basics, welcoming them to the team, getting them on board, getting started calls, all these things that we tend to do. Why not just focus on having them invite their friends and family to the same challenge group using the same challenge pack that they used, right? That's very, very simple. I like that idea. Okay, so like I said before.
Question on that one. So you're saying they're not a coach yet. You're just having them invite somebody without being a coach yet?
I think it can go either way. I mean, either when it comes time to asking them if they're ready to pay it forward, asking them if they have 2 to 3 friends that might want to do this with them would probably encourage them to then sign up. Like if they said, yeah, I've got a coworker or my sister or my brother wants to do it, whatever the case is, then that would be an easy in to say, hey, it totally makes sense for you to sign up as a coach. This is what I would recommend. Otherwise, yeah, as a coach, for sure. That's our first goal. Help them hit success goal. So this is a fun stat for you, really. And you like my emoji? Like, I have been doing this business, you guys know, for a long time. And I've had 11 personally sponsored diamonds since 2014 or 2015. 9 of them were challengers first, right? And all of them, 9 of them are still with us. The 2 that came into the business that were like, I'm going to crush this business. I'm in this business because I want to make money. They are no longer with us, right? So my point here is just to prove that you've got to be a fan of the products and programs. You've got to be somebody who's experienced the power of a challenge group, that accountability piece, and someone who really vibes with the tribe, right? Okay, so my theory here is that our work as a coach begins with the challenge pack sale. When someone says they're ready to hop on board, whether they say, yeah, I'll sign up with a coach account so that I can save on Shakeology costs, that makes sense. Or if they're just a customer and they order a challenge pack that way, it doesn't matter. They're coming in as a customer, right? We're treating them as a customer. We're bringing them into the challenge group. Step 1, we onboard them into the challenge group. We welcome them. We create that energy. We encourage them and hold them accountable during their program. We help them see results over the course of the challenge group while planting seeds that they would make a great coach, right? So we're building belief in them behind the scenes. So not only are they experiencing that stuff, that feel in the group, but then outside of the group, maybe through Messenger or texting or in person, we're constantly reminding them that we think they would make a great coach on a team. Or just let me know when you're ready to pay it forward. You're going to get addicted to this. I know you are, right? Like those are all things that I tend to say. Number 4, they love the program and their results. They love the community, and then they feel ready to pay it forward as a coach. So in my experience, the most successful coaches that I have mentored in the business, this has been their process, right? They've been onboarded well into a challenge group. I've taken care of them. I've planted seeds over the course of time that they would be a great coach. I help them get the results, and then I ask them to pay it forward. And that truly, in my opinion, is recruiting. That's how I recruit. I realize that that's not a script. That's not something you might hear from another coach, but this is what I've found in my experience to be helpful. So other things that could be holding you back, right? Fear of inviting to the coach opportunity. Again, kind of going back with that theory of not feeling like you might be able to lead. Like, I don't think I'll have time to lead a certain number of people, or I don't think I have the energy to lead people, or whatever the case is. Whatever that sort of hiccup is in your own brain, that could be leading to a fear of inviting other people to the coach opportunity, not seeing what we have as a gift to give to other people. I see a lot of coaches lead with the discount opportunity first. So it's more comfortable, right? It's more comfortable to lead with the discount opportunity, just like it's more comfortable to say, hey, I have a free group versus, hey, I have a paid group, right? So my suggestion would be to not always lead with the discount opportunity. So you guys, honestly, feel like I can say this to you, like, there are cases where I know a person pretty well, and I know that they're not, if I've been working with them for a certain period of time, and I've been planting seeds with them about coaching, and it's not going anywhere, then I might come out with, you might as well save money on your Shakeology, right? Like, in those cases, that's what I'll do. But most of the time, I'm really encouraging people to want to pay this forward and work the business, right? That's the number one goal. The other thing that I see people do is not brand themselves as a business mentor or as just a business owner in general. I heard this today as well. I did a lot of phone call catching up today. I can't remember where I heard that. It might have been the wake up call. I don't know. I heard something today where they said, you've got to make sure that you're not just, if I look at your social media, I need to know that not only do you drink a shake and sweat in your basement every day, I also need to know that you run a business, that you're the CEO of your business, that you lead a team, and that is valuable and important to you, right? And I think that is probably where a lot of you are getting really stuck. And I think the reason is because it's hard. Like, it's not hard. I shouldn't say that. When you put something out there on your social about being a business mentor, about being a coach, about being a CEO, whatever, you're probably not going to get people who reach out. I'm just going to be completely honest with you. I can't even remember a time that I ever had somebody reach out, right? Probably those 2 coaches that reached out to me about wanting to make money with the business opportunity. But I hardly ever get anybody who's like, me, yeah, I know, I want to hear more, right? It just doesn't happen. But what it does do is it shows that this is important to me. It shows that this is a part of who I am. I'm not just walking the walk, drinking the shake, pressing play. I'm also I really treat this as a business, and I'm successful with it, right? And people need to see that. So all these people that you're planting seeds with, all these challengers that you're talking to behind the scenes about joining your team, they are seeing those posts about you being a CEO, about you being a leader, about you facilitating growth within yourself, about you helping lead other people and mentor other people, right? Like, they're seeing that regardless of who reaches out. So that is such a crucial piece. I know that attraction marketing, some people say attraction marketing is dying, but the truth is, whether you do it in your Instagram stories, your public posts, your Facebook stories, I don't care where you're doing it. I really want you guys to challenge yourselves to start branding yourself as a business owner, right? Like, start incorporating that into your overall brand. Next is when someone claims that they don't have the money. This is a huge thing. If someone says, I don't have the money to join your challenge group, or I don't have the money right now, blah, 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 I think too many coaches say, okay, no problem, I'll just follow up with you later. And not enough coaches say, well, then let me talk to you about the business opportunity side of what I do. Okay. So if someone says to me, I can't, I don't know if I can afford to stay on Shakeology for several months, or if I don't, I don't know if I'm going to invest in this because let's say I have the $180 to do the challenge pack, but I just don't know how long I can continue the Shakeology and I want to be successful. Whatever the case is, those are perfect situations where I tell the person, look, let's get you signed up with a coach account. That way you're saving X amount on your Shakeology. And then let's, after you're into the program for a couple weeks, let's reconnect and talk about whether or not this is something you want to pay forward. If you have a coworker or, a relative or a family member / friend that wants to do this, you can earn a little bit of cash to help offset your own costs, right? So that's something that we can offer when someone says, I don't have the extra side cash to afford this. Why not help them make that side cash by becoming a coach, right? I realize that it's sort of a little bit of backward thinking perhaps, but I think it's something that I see people steer clear from. So this might be a little bit of a fun thing, but we'll see. So I was gonna write here, you are who you recruit, which is the same way of saying this, but I like this better. Who you recruit in the business is a mirror reflection of you, of who you are, okay? I remember having someone facilitate this activity for me 4 or 5 years ago, and it was a huge wake-up call for me. It was like, whoa. So I'm going to do this for you. Hopefully it'll work the same way. So hopefully you've got your notepad or your phone or whatever you got out. What I want you to do is I want you to take 2 minutes to write down the top 10 qualities of your ideal coach. So if you could bring on Jane, who was just a rock star go-getter, onto your team, what would her top 10 qualities or attributes be? Okay, I'm gonna start my clock. We're gonna take 2 minutes, starting now. Sorry, that was nothing. That was something else. All right, we'll stop there. Okay, does anybody want to share theirs just for fun? Or a few of theirs?
Well,
Yeah, let's hear it.
I only got 8.
Okay.
2 of them might be basically the same. Committed, authentic, empathetic, is that right? Drama-free, enthusiastic, invested, a learner, and social.
I like it. Anybody else? Anybody have something different than that?
Mine are a little bit different. I have hard worker, genuine, motivational, confident, outgoing, organized, That's actually something I'm not. Knowledgeable / able to find answers to things, and honest. So I had 9.
I like it. Anybody else? Okay. Okay, I have coachable, growth-oriented, action taker, leader, savvy, and in parentheses, figures it out. Outgoing, committed, I had 7. Okay, so the reason I had you do this is because I want you to look at that list of however many items you have, up to 10 qualities, and I want you to rate yourself next to each of those qualities on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being, oh my gosh, I'm terrible at this, 10 being, I crush this and I'm awesome at this. I want you to rate yourself on every quality that you listed. I'll give you just a few seconds for that. My guess is that you have at least 1 to 2 areas, 1 to 2 qualities that you yourself could work on. Am I right, or did I totally miss the boat? So there's two sides, I guess, takeaways from this activity. Number 1, hopefully, like I know Laura, you just said that you wish that you could have someone organized, but you're not organized yourself, right? So maybe that's something that needs a look, like needs a little bit of a harder look at. I know for me, I wish I could locate it, but I did this activity like 4 or 5 years ago. It was a huge wake-up call for me because at that point in my business, I dealt with a lot of coaches who, I won't say they lacked belief, but they lacked a lot of confidence, and were just simply not growth oriented. So they were not at all, plugged into improving themselves in any way. And that was sort of the start of me realizing that while I felt that I was growth oriented personally, I wasn't necessarily putting that out there for my team or through my brand, right? So I wasn't attracting people who were growth oriented. I was attracting people who I was putting myself out there as someone who would save people. Does that make sense? So then the people that I was working with were people that wanted saved. So I share this with you because number 1, hopefully it gives you an area of focus to really take a look at, but also I want you to look at this list of qualities and say, if someone was taking a look at my social or following me on my social, my Instagram stories, would they see these qualities in me through my brand? Would these be things that they notice from me? Right? Because it turns out that I feel like over the course of time, over the course of 8+ years, the people that I'm working with now, the people that you guys that are right here on this call right now, are so much more like me, right? And the more I'm in this business and the more that I recruit coaches, the more the even further down the tunnel we go with being closer and closer in connection. Does that make sense? Like I'm getting closer and closer and closer to finding my niche. But it turns out that my niche is people who are just like me, right? Like people who are totally just like me. So I hope this is helpful. I hope you can take a look at this and say, not only do I need to be sort of putting this out there on my social and branding myself this way as a leader and a CEO, but these are the characteristics or attributes that I crush and that I rock at, that I need to be showcasing about myself. These are things that people don't see from me, right? If you think about a lot of the top coaches in the business, a lot of you guys know Erin Young, like locally here in Indiana. I think she does a great job of really showcasing what she's good at, right? Right now, I think she's doing some sort of like declutter your home thing. So you get this vibe that she's just a really organized person, right? Like she's kind of got her house under control. Like, so whatever the case is, like you get to see those attributes in top coaches. And I think it's what helps them connect with people who are like them. So step one, work on your areas that need improving so that you are recruiting who you want and people who are like you. And number two, make sure that you're putting that out there, that you're showcasing who you really are and what you're working on. Okay. So we also know the activities to recruiting a rockstar coach, right? Like we're most likely not going to just find someone out in the universe who just automatically knows how to rock a network marketing business and they automatically fall in love with our products at the first taste. And they just say, oh my gosh, I'm going to be in the Million Club next year. Like that's probably not going to happen. So we have to instead look at what does work. And what does work is we're really good at finding challengers, you guys, right? Like our flash sale last week, we brought in 19 new challengers for the month of September in one flash sale. So we're really good at attracting people to what we do, attracting them to allowing them, for them to allow us to help them on their health and fitness, right? Getting them into the challenge groups. We just have to, I think, improve what's happening from there, from the challenge pack sale to the moment they decide to upgrade to become a coach and pay it forward. That small window of relationship is where our focus needs to go. Does that make sense? And I think a lot of times, because of the way Beachbody positions it, recruiting the way the company sees it, recruiting starts before the challenge pack sale. And to me, in my experience, that's a really hard road to run. I think it's a lot better in the long term to put the work into the relationships that you have already. So the end goal, of course, is to help people see results and then want to pay those results forward. So that's sort of my, I guess, step one, phase one of talking about sort of where our mindset needs to be when it comes to recruiting coaches into the business. I don't know what that noise just was. Did you guys hear that? It was like a huge boom. I see my dog, so it's not my dog. Okay, any questions, you guys, from any of that or any add-ons? Oh, Noah's not in bed anymore. I see his face.
No, Noah's up. But anyway, we can't have everything. So I have a woman. She was a Beachbody like customer person that I had randomly. What do you call that?
Lead.
A lead, yeah, a lead from the company. And she responded to my newsletter, ordered a challenge pack from me, and she's currently doing Lift 4. And as I've talked to her, I found out she's done like every single program. And so in my mind, I was like, right away, I was like, wow, she should just really be a coach. She's obviously a huge fan of Beachbody. Mm-hmm. But I have her in the Lift 4 group, just kind of like on her own. And I feel like she's not really getting that sense of community. So I've just been like private messaging her and like checking in with her there. But what do you recommend as like a way to kind of help get her connected to the community of it when she's kind of like on her own with the units, you know? And I have seen her checking in there.
Okay.
But any tips on that?
Is she checking in each day with her workout and stuff like that, or is it just occasionally?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Is she checking in every day with her wins and stuff, or is it just kind of randomly?
She was, yeah. I actually am struggling to figure out how to see her stuff, which we can have that as a side conversation. I'm having a little trouble keeping up, like figuring out how to see where my people are in the units.
Okay. My first thought, just right off the top of my head, would be to ask her what could make the experience better. Like, let's just ask her. I mean, she's the customer. So let's just see, are you enjoying the challenge group? Did you utilize the meal plans? How's it going? Where are you with your workouts? That kind of thing. If she's already, I have found that people who've done like every program tend to make great coaches as well, because they're very familiar. They're already huge fanatics of the products. Esther's not on here right now, but I'm pretty sure she's done every possible program that's in our library and had done them for years and years before we even connected. So, but yeah, I think the first step would maybe just be like seeing, look and see, or just say, where are you in the program? Like, what day are you on in the program? Are you enjoying the group? Like, what could we do to make this experience better? And if maybe it could just be that maybe the timing might have been a little bit off. Like, since we have a fresh kickoff starting here next week, maybe that can sort of reinvigorate the group itself and help her plug in a little bit more. But without knowing sort of where she is in it and if she's checking in daily, I don't know. Any other thoughts from anybody else?
I haven't been in exactly that situation yet, but it's one that I fear. And I think I like that we have the units and all the content there, but I kind of have the same thing. Like, I feel like when people start late and not with that group, they are missing out on that community, and they are hard to find. And the only way that I find people is by typing their name into the search bar in the group, and it's just not super effective when I'm trying to work in small pockets of time. So I do have one challenger who I started on day one, probably Katie around the time that you started too. And she's pretty much said, like, I really just want access to these workouts to supplement what else I'm doing. She's not really in it for the challenge group. She just really wanted a solution to workouts at home. So I've kind of hesitated and not really recruited to groups that weren't all starting for that reason, because I also feel like they just miss that community piece.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you brought this up, because I was thinking about this weekend. When we have launches, so like with 80 Day Obsession in January, we had like the 80-day group, right? And you guys there's no way you can deny me and say that like that group was not one of my favorite groups ever, because we had those people for 80 days. And there was such a community that was formed there because of it. We were all on the same page at the same time, pressing play on the same thing. We had t-shirts made. Like, I mean, it was a big deal. So that group rocked. Lift 4, same thing, right? Maybe not as high of energy, but 8-week program. We're following it through for the duration of the program. So the people that start, like, so, you know, would you guys agree that probably 75% or so of our challengers are starting with the launch of a program, right? They're starting with the launch of 80 Day. They're starting with the launch of Lift 4 or whatever, 2B Mindset. So we're taking care of most of them that way through the launch and the official start day. But then what I think you guys are getting at is we've got this other 25% of people that are coming on board late, like 4 weeks later. And it's like, well, what do we do with them? So the one thing that I was thinking about after our brainstorming call was we've got this, like, the Sneaky Moms group that's coming up, right? I like that concept. I like having that type of concept every month, because without having something program specific tied to it, it can be a way to plug people in that are centered around the same thing. It's purposefully creating a tribe centered around momming, right? Like momming and not necessarily just about a program. So I think we're going to have, like, I don't know how to, because it's like we can't be like, no thanks, we don't want to participate in Beachbody launches, because obviously they're huge, right? Like, that's the primary facilitator of our business. But I think having these sort of month to month, 21 or 30 day, like the Portion Fix group, this group is going to be a way for us to have fresh new start dates where people can hop in more frequently than those longer duration programs. Does that make sense? I'm open to any suggestions you guys have about people coming on board late, that sort of thing, because I know we tried doing different waves of people. I'm open to whatever, but as far as I know, as far as I can think right now, that's about as far as I can think. So
I know personally I'm just going to start on the 17th. My plan right now is just to start my own group with people who aren't doing Sneaky Moms, but I have like one PIO, one Lift 4, one 21-day fix. And so some are former customers kind of who want to just restart in September. They're ready after Labor Day to get going. Some are new customers, but I know that with the time that I have, I cannot, like Katie was kind of saying, I can't plug them all into all of our team groups and stay on top of where they all are. And I know, like, I think the Lift 4 group has been great. And I have noticed a lot of my customers, because I started with 16 people in that group, and I have like 3 to 5 who check in pretty regularly. When I did the before Lift 4 group with that small group for a month, it was insane the amount of check-ins. So I kind of struggle with, I like the big group, but I also find that when I have the smaller group, I could just keep track of those people better.
Right. Yeah. Well, and the one thing that I'll say, and this is like a take it or leave it type statement, is this: not every challenger is going to be a rock star that checks in every single day, right? Like, we have to understand that that's just how it is. So my personal feeling has been, okay, so let me see if I can figure this out and share it right. When I started my business, so very early on, I started my business, as you guys know, with a bunch of Shakeology samplers. Like, I would literally put together packages of 10 samples. People would pay me $50. I would mail it to them. And that's how I started my business 8 years ago. That then led to me having value, right? I had an email newsletter that had built up credibility over time. I then had a social brand. I had been doing these sample groups, and then that led to me having fully paid groups, right? And that's how people started hopping on board my challenge groups. I was a lot more concerned then about every single individual, making sure that every single individual was, message me when you get your pack, message me when you try your first shake. Like, I was a lot more hands-on. And then as my business grew, it got harder and harder to do. It got to a point where I'm just going to be too overwhelmed if I'm hand-holding every single person through a challenge group, right? So I guess what I'm trying to get at is there's a fine balance between making sure your challenges are successful, really, like we talked about tonight, really like creating them as a coach, like really like sort of like feeding belief into them that they can be a coach and pay this forward. There's this fine balance between that and also not like totally doing everything for them. Does that make sense? Like, so my personal feeling, and you guys have heard me say this 100 times, so I know this isn't new. I feel like if I'm putting somebody in an environment where they can thrive, it's on them to succeed with it or not. So I feel like they're getting Beachbody on demand for a year, right? They're getting a bag of Shakeology or whatever they decide to get, performance, whatever. They're getting the meal plans that I've put time and effort and work into, right? Like, they're hopping into this group where there is facilitated virtual accountability if they want to plug into it. Unfortunately, we as coaches do not make house calls. So I can't go to their house, make sure they're pressing play. I can't make sure that they're drinking their shake. I can't make sure that they're following the meal plan. But I have put them in a virtual environment where they can thrive. They have everything that they need. So if they choose not to check in, or the energy isn't right for them, or whatever the case is, like, I'm not going to sort of bend over backwards. And normally those, I think you were just saying, Jackie, like, of the 16 that you had, 3 to 5 are now still checking in, still really into it. Those are probably going to be your primary prospects for coaching, right? So not all 16 of them that start with you are going to become coaches. There might be 1 or 2 or 3. And you're going to be able to see who they are because they're the people who commit to the program, like the words that we just heard tonight: committed, action taker, goal-oriented, leader, right? Like those, the qualities that we just listed are who you want in a coach. So we want the people who are somewhat self-motivated, the people who are like checking in on their own, they're taking advantage of that environment. Because if not, and we have to constantly check in with them and like do the hand-holding and the facilitating of their process and their journey, that's what it's going to be like to mentor them too as a coach. And I can tell you from experience, like, there's not enough wine. There's not enough wine for you to handle that. So you really just, at some point, I don't know when it was that I sort of made this transition in my business, probably just when I started feeling overwhelmed. I had to make a decision that I'm going to bring on at least 5 new customers a month. In that 30-day period of time, those 5 customers are going to get my primary focus because they are my customers of the moment, right? For this 30 days, I'm all theirs. I will work them. I will try to help them rock this group. But beyond that, like, in October, I'm got 5 new people I got to work with. So those 5 people are either going to need to, I've given them the tools, they're in the environment, they've got to plug into it and continue. And if they don't, that's not on me. So I don't know if that's anywhere near helpful, but we have to remember that those attributes are what we're going for. We're not going for the person that we had to prod 30 days in a row, you know? So.
Jenny, I wanted to kind of add to that too. As a personal trainer, that's actually something that's discussed in becoming a personal trainer. So even if you're training these people face to face, your ultimate goal is to make them independent. That doesn't mean that they don't come to you for advice. It just means that they need to stand on their own to give them confidence in order to continue. Those are going to be your best customers, are going to be your best people that you train, because they're going to continue to move forward. If you're holding their hand the whole time, they don't have the confidence that they could do this without you. It actually goes backwards. They tend to fall off a lot quicker.
Yep. Yeah, I'm looking right now at my whiteboard, this little whiteboard plate thing right in front of my desk, and I have my short list of coaches to recruit this month are people who have sort of made themselves shine in my challenge groups or just through messaging me in general. So the people who have just, they love 80-day obsession, or they love the Lift 4 program, they're checking into the group constantly. I take notice of that because I see what they're doing. Those are the people on my short list. The people that I brought in when Lift 4 launched, whenever that was, 6-8 weeks ago, if they're not like making themselves shine, they're not a prospect for me. And I'm not saying that to be bitter or anything. It's just a matter of, you know, I want to invest in people who want to invest in themselves and who want to do this, right? So if one of you guys, I think, shared recently, like, you have a challenger who just like, they get frustrated because they can't figure out how to log into BOD. Like, are you going to spend an hour trying to help them figure out how to log into BOD? Like, they're going to have to do it on their own, right? So the same thing goes for this. Like, you can't handhold everybody. Like, maybe, I know it's hard. Again, here we go. A lot of you guys are like me, so I know it's really hard to not have control, right? It's really hard to not have control, but maybe you set a boundary, like, okay, Sue, Betty, Laura, Jennifer, and Abby, those are the 5 people I brought in this month. I'm plugging them into this group. They're crushing it. The people I brought in with Lift 4, who's still hanging on, right? Those 4 ladies that are still hanging on, they're on my short list. That's 9 people that I have my focus on right now. 9 people instead of the 30 that I brought on since January, or the 50 I brought on since January. Does that make sense? So I'm trying to keep you from being overwhelmed and keeping you focused on recruiting the people that you want and need versus everybody.
No, that's really helpful, I think, to focus on, because I always struggle with that. Like, you're my customer, you wanted to join with me as your coach, and you joined in February. So like, every time I have a new group, I try to re-engage you because you kind of fell off. And I think I also had the I posted in the Rank Attack group, but I listened to a podcast today, the Story Brand, how to never lose another customer, or how to stop losing customers, something like that. And it was nothing new, but a really good structured reminder for that, like, customer experience and how they get buyer's remorse, and how are you immediately providing them some value. And I think it walked through a lot of things that you just talked about, Jenny, too, that after, as soon as the sale ends, that's where it begins, and like going through these steps with them. And I think kind of gave me an aha too, as I market to people and as I tell them what they're going to get, to really emphasize that, you know, this first program that you're joining with me is when you get all of me. And I always say you always have access to the groups, but really phrasing it as access to the groups, so that it is kind of on them after that, so that I can focus on my new people and the people who are rising up, rather than having this list of now 24 people in groups this month who I'm trying to keep track of and check in on. And a lot of them are like, I don't check in, but I'm still doing great. Okay, how often do I need to check in with them, or am I kind of done? I feel I get all this guilt over not checking in enough or following up enough. But I think I had some ahas about who to focus on and how much time to give them.
Yes, for sure. I'm glad. Yeah. No, I used to have this thought, like, years ago. My upline is, you guys know Julie Boris. I used to have this thought, like, I used to think this all the time. I used to be like, what if I never would have like reached out and like gone to lunch with her originally and then driven her crazy about being included in things. Like, I mean, I drove her crazy. Like I went to lunch with her initially to talk to her about what the business was, so I could learn the business. Then I just kept at it. Like I just kept asking her questions. Like I was that person that was just constantly in her face, like for the first 2 years. And I remember asking myself later, like, what if I never would have done that? Like, what if I was just this eventual leader that, you know, we have this team of our coaches. I think we have over 700 now on our team. So like we have a team of 700 coaches. Like, what if I never would have just been like, hey, can someone tell me what the business is? Like, what if I would have never asked, right? And I used to have that thought because I would think, gosh, she's got like 25,000 coaches in her downline. Like, how does she manage it all? And then I slowly started to realize that it's because exactly what we're talking about right now. She's going to let whoever the stars are shine. And I don't mean to call myself a star, but I'm just saying, like, whoever it is that's going to ask the questions, drive her crazy, tell her they want it, right? Like, those are the people that she's going to invest her time in. So she doesn't have to go finding them or controlling what they're doing, see who everybody is. She's just got to sit back and wait for them to come to her. And so I'm not saying sit back and wait for your people to come to you necessarily. I'm just saying that's at least the strategy that I've employed. Like, I'm going to sit back and see who shines. I've put you into this challenge group. You know what to do. You know you're supposed to plug in every day with your workout. Let's see who does it, right? And then those are the people I'm going to sort of nurture and tell them, look, it's really not that hard to just take what you're already doing and share it, right? So you kind of have to, like, just like you guys have stepped out to be like, look, I'm a leader. I want included. That's what you're looking for in your challengers too. You're looking for that go-getter that follows the rules, raises their hand, asks the question. Those are the people you want to be coaches on your team. If it's somebody that you got to constantly pester, that's how your life will be as their mentor too. Either you loved that or you hated it. I don't know. So any other questions, you guys, or anything else regarding this? So yeah, so Jackie, if I feel like if you're spending time, you know, like following up with all your people, and then you're spending the other parts of your time, which I know you have very limited time, in just hitting Success Club and getting people into your challenge groups, it makes sense that you would be in the position that you're in, right? Like, you have a boatload of coaches that you've told me are all discount coaches, like, and a ton of challengers, right? But as far as emeralds and people working the business, that's where your focus is right now. You're starting to adjust that focus. So it makes total sense. Like, that's where your energy has been, right? That's where your time has been. So I think it could be a huge momentum shifter for you to just say, okay, like, I'm not going to handhold anymore. These are the people who deserve my time and focus. And I'm going to move forward with planting seeds with them and turning them into great coaches. For sure. Yeah, Laura too. Okay, cool. I have a video that I was going to show you guys that I forgot about. Do you guys want to see it? It's sort of related, sort of not, but I just saw it before this call. And so the way that I'll tie this into this call for those watching the recording is I saw this video tonight and I realized, like, this is so, like, especially after thinking about this today, this is so important for us to see, because I'm sure that you guys have had people over the course of, from the time you were a kid till, you know, through high school, college, whatever, someone has seen something in you at some point, a talent or a skill or something, and it has drawn you to do something that you now do, or that you're now interested in, right? Like, I can remember when I was in like the 6th grade I got accepted into like the gifted and talented creative writing program at my school, right? And it was such a minor thing, really, in the grand scheme of things. But I was like, oh, I didn't know I was a good writer. And then all of a sudden it was like, I started being told that. My grandma thought I was a good writer. And then I had these other people at the church tell me that they thought I was a good writer. And then next thing you know, I was investing a lot of time in writing on my own, like writing books, right? Like, as a kid. So we have those people in our life who, like, have seen something in us, right? A lot of you guys who are teachers, you are that person for so many. And I feel like that's really truly what it is we're doing as coaches too. Like if you see this as a gift, if you see this the way I do, if you see this as something that can really change somebody's life, I think it was Rose. I think Rose's coach, Kristen, is it Kristen, Tara? She's recently working the business or new to the team. And she said on a call recently something about how she just feels like this is stirring something within her that she didn't know she had. And it's totally out of the realm of what she does as a full-time whatever. But so the purpose of this video is just to show you that by not inviting to this opportunity and not seeing this business as a gift that's worth sharing, we could be holding something back from them and their potential as a person. So it's a really cute video too. So hang on one second. Let me see if I can find it. Okay. So you guys can see this, right? Yes, Tara, can you tell me? I can see you. Okay. Can you hear?
I have a lot of memories from when I was a child.
Okay.
One that's always stuck out to me, though, was when I was about 10 years old, and I was in school, and I struggled. And I didn't struggle with English, math, or science. I struggled holding still. And I would try to listen and focus and process ideas, but I couldn't help myself. And to be honest, I would sit there and then I would just start tapping. And the students in the class would look at me and they'd say, "Hey, stop tapping." A lot of the time, I didn't even realize I was doing it. And then eventually even the teachers got after me and they would yell at me and they'd say, "Clint, you have to stop tapping." It got so bad that I got sent to the principal's office for tapping. And he said to me, "Okay, maybe when you go back to class, just try sitting on your hands." So I did. I went back to class, and when I felt myself starting to tap, I did this. I sat on my hands. And that worked for about 5 seconds. One time I was tapping in class, and my teacher, Mr. Jensen, he looked at me, and he yelled. And he said, "Clint, stay after class." And I thought to myself, this is it. I am done. Now, I've always been the type of person that believes that a single moment in time can change a person's life. And this was one of those moments for me that I will never forget. So I was sitting there with Mr. Jensen and an empty classroom. He walked past me and he sat next to his desk and he said, "Clint, come here. I want to talk to you." And as he looked me right in the eye, he said, "No, I need you to know something. You're not in trouble. But I do have just one question that I have to ask you." And he said, "Have you ever thought about playing the drums?" And in that moment, Mr. Jensen, he leaned back and he opened the top drawer of his desk. And he reached in and he pulled out my very first pair of drumsticks. And he held them in his hands and he looked at me and he said, "Hey, Clint, you're not a problem. I think you're a drummer." From that moment on, I've never picked up since. I've toured, recorded, played drums all over the world. My whole college education was paid for with drumsticks in my hand. Just because of a single moment in time when somebody believed in me. And he saw something in me that I didn't even see within myself. And from that moment, I learned that there's a difference between being the best in the world and being the best for the world.
I thought that was a super cool video, so I'm glad I shared. So I guess the purpose in that, and maybe it's just because I had focused on this PowerPoint today and talking about recruiting, but it made me think, I truly do feel like what I do as a coach is my calling. It's definitely something that I've felt drawn to, and I feel like I'm serving my purpose in. And I'm so thankful that my former neighbor, who no longer even is a coach, was willing to talk to me about the opportunity, because had she not brought it up, I don't know if I ever would have learned about it, at least in the way and at the right time that I did. And so I hope that you guys have a similar experience, a similar feeling. Hopefully the activities that we did tonight can help shed some light to the fact that hoping this coaching opportunity has been a gift to you in more than one way. And so it's sort of up to us to pay that forward and to not be afraid to invite people to it. So more to come in the coming weeks, hoping to touch on a couple more aspects of this in the next 2 webinars. And I'm excited to hear from Kelsey Shackley as well. So with that, I will let you guys go unless you have any other. Abby, did you have a question?
I was just going to say one thing that I just thought of.
Sorry, say that again.
I was just going to say one more thing that I just thought of when you were talking. And it was the way you invited me to rejoin the business. I hadn't thought about this in a long time. I kind of forgotten about it. And I think you did. You asked Sean, I'm probably the exact same way. You recorded a video into our challenge and posted it in our challenge group that only had, at the time, there were only a few of us that were still like locked into that same group we had running for a long time. Mm-hmm. You kind of spoke from your heart about wanting those of us in that group who would kind of like create, I don't remember what you said exactly, but it was basically like, if you're in this group, you've stuck with us, you're doing the things that you need to do, and I think you should be a coach, or you'd make a great coach. I forget what you said, but it was personal, and it was directed at challengers that had stuck with you for quite some time. We were putting in the work. And I thought that, and as it popped in my head, was a really effective way to get out the invite.
Yeah.
Especially if you have a private challenge group with some rock stars in it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's one thing I wanted to talk about in the next couple weeks. Amy Silverman just did a live stream in the roundtable yesterday about sort of some things that she's been doing that's working and stuff. And one of the things that she talked about was how she's utilizing her challenge groups, the tail end of her challenge groups, as a platform for recruiting. She's actually transitioning people from there to like an interest group, and then she does like an informational session, but she times it so that it's at the end of a challenge group. So it's at the end of Lift 4, it's at the end of 80-Day Obsession, whatever, which I thought was sort of a smart idea. So we'll dive into more ideas with that as well. Cool. I'm still waiting, you guys, on the link for the sweatshirts. So I know I got a couple messages today. I have not heard back from Heather. She was going to have them up this weekend. And then yesterday I checked in with her and she said she was going to have them up last night. So I'm just waiting for her to send me the link. And once I have it, I will share. I know you guys are dying to have another one so that you can just alternate Mr. Rogers style between the two. So, okay, you guys, I'll post the recording in the morning. Have a great night.